by the military-industrial complex.
It could be seen to move violently forward, violently forward, violently forward.
I'm just a patsy.
Let's win there.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
You think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so that's not so bad.
Exactly.
I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks.
And we're back. Welcome to the Duke Report, a platform that I put back together after our home burned down on January 7th of this year. And Jessica and I are starting to get back into the rhythm of things. And so we're here to help you think critically and use the tools that we use or that we're developing in order to be able to kind of discern truth and figure out what's going on in the world. If you want to support this channel, you can become paid subscribers at thedukereport.substack.com, or you can simply just go to thedukereport.com and it will redirect you to Substack. Or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/thedukereport and you can leave us a coffee or as many coffees as you like there. You can also buy my book at Amazon, Stealth Power and the Illusion of Democracy. And with that, we're upping the game this week. We're doing 2 podcasts this week instead of 1. And if we can get into the groove of it, we'll start doing 2 every week again. And who knows, maybe more. But in any case, Trump had his speech last night, and Jessica and I watched it. And of course, the way that I look at things, I'm always analyzing the language. And as kind of a preamble to, or a warm-up for, digging into the Trump thing, I thought I would share a couple of other things. And that's Quigley, you can hear in the background, barking. Someone told me I should get a noise gate, but I talked to my audio engineer daughter, and she said, well, I don't know, the noise gate is kind of, it can sound weird. So I'm not going to get a noise gate. But in any case, let me share this. So the first thing I'm going to show you is yes, it is Quigley. The first thing I'm going to show you is a video that my friend Jack Posobiec sent me because he was shouting me out, and and the reason I'm showing you this is not to be critical of Jack. But it's to show you how language works and how memory impacts our ability to use words. And just to tee this up, Jack is talking about the Vanity Fair hit piece that came out on the White House this week. And of course, this is how I got involved in this business in the first place. It's in 2010, I met Andrew Breitbart, and he said, politics is downstream from culture. And I was a photographer, and I understand how photography worked. And so the Trump administration could have avoided this. This is like a self-inflicted wound. But let's just hear Jack talk about how, about photographs.
Jack, I want to move on, okay. But I just remember when Vanity. Jack, I want to move on, but I just remember when Vanity Fair did that foot massage of a piece on Karine Jean-Pierre, and they took this photo of Karine. I mean, she was just. I mean, I think objectively one of the worst press secretaries we've had, maybe ever. Certainly in the last 25 years, and they made her out to be a rock star. And the photos they used today to portray J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and Caroline Leavitt were just like the worst photos of them ever. I don't understand why Republicans continue to do interviews with left-leaning outlets like The Atlantic and Vanity Fair and Maggie Haberman at the New York Times and expect a different result. Why do they do this, Jack? Stop doing this.
Yeah, look, I think there's this strategy that perhaps if you give the access, it'll make it look like you're not scared of these narratives. It'll make it look like you're not scared of answering tough questions. But at the same time, ultimately, what ends up happening is things get misconstrued, inside jokes get turned into personal attacks. And again, you see those photographs. There's Peter Duke, the photographer, has a great line. He says, every photograph is a lie. And what that means is that every photographer and every editor can make a subject look however they want, depending on what they do with the camera, with lighting, etc. And look, we've got an incredible ecosystem of independent media now. And I love the fact that they are embracing new media so much at the White House. But yes, you do still see the legacy guys getting in there.
Yes.
So let me take this one out. So it's interesting too because you know, in the Trump 1 White House, I was asked to write a white paper, and I did write a white paper. And my suggestion was to get rid of the press room and to do everything like on Zoom, and give citizen journalists full access to the White House, and not make it a requirement that you needed to be in Washington, D.C. in order to be able to be part of the White House press corps. In any case, I think that Jack misremembered. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he's a bad guy. And I think that he misremembered. And so what I want to do is I want to show you what I actually did say. And so with that, I will bring this tab in, and we will play this. This is a clip from Mike Cernovich's motion picture Hoaxed, where I simply went there to take pictures of the production, and they wound up putting me in the movie because it turned out that they needed my interview in order to bridge the beginning and the end of the movie. So this was my section of that film.
Nothing has captured this crisis like the picture that we began with last night.
His family says his name was Island and that he and his brother and his mother drowned trying to reach Greece by boat.
All photographs are rhetoric. All photographs are accurate. None of them are the truth. Let's face it, we don't see the world in a still frame. We don't see the world in black and white. We don't see the world frozen. All photographs are kind of self-portraits. They're really a reflection of the photographer and the editor. There's a lot of journalists who get angry when I say that.
And tonight we're going to spend the program looking at the power of that image, which has shocked the world, shaken politicians, and transformed the debate about refugees fleeing from war.
If you're listening to a song, you have to listen to the song. You have to at least get to the hook before you decide that you think it's a good song. Still images don't work that way. Still images happen immediately.
I just can't look at that without being so upset. Like, it just makes me think how lucky I am that I live in Australia, that my children live in Australia. That's what it is.
Yeah, the most persuasive thing is visual. Our visual sense overpowers everything else. So what they choose to show as an image is the message, no matter what the words on the screen say. What you remember is what you saw.
The salaciousness or the shock value of images can be used in order to kind of manipulate people's behavior.
Dead children are normally taboo, especially on the front page. But next morning, almost every UK newspaper broke the rule and ran an image on the front cover.
And if you compare that to the bodies in Europe from terrorist attacks, some of which committed by these migrants or their descendants, those bodies you can't see. Showing those bodies can get you censored on social media.
People still have fears that migrants might have an ISIS member lurking among them, which there has been no credible example of. News broke that one of the attackers may have posed as a refugee and entered Europe through Greece with a fake Syrian passport.
Knowing that you're not seeing those photographs should be a tip, right? It should be a clue. All right, I was, hang on, get rid of this. I said, basically, I was cribbing Richard Avedon. Richard Avedon famously said all photographs are accurate, none of them are the truth. The Peter Duke part of it that I added is that all photographs are rhetoric, which I believe, because you see the world in a still photograph that's not real. The way that if you turn your head away from whatever the screen is that you're looking at right now, it's not in black and white, and it isn't frozen. It's moving. There's something moving, and it's dimensional. And still photographs are not dimensional, and they're not moving, and they're frozen in time. And if they're black and white, that's not the way that we see things. And so these are all different ways of reframing reality. And what I want to talk about today, though, is how language frames our reality, and specifically a specific form of language that's called the universal quantifier. And the universal quantifier is a word that's like any, all, never, always. And then there's another form of it in the meta model, which is the framework that neurolinguistic programming uses. And that's called a modal operator, and that's kind of like a either or. So it's the same idea. What it does is it takes whatever the concept that you're discussing, and it pegs the needle over onto one side of the meter or the other. So left and right, yes, always and never, love, hate. These are all forms of universal quantifier. And so I want what made me start thinking about this week, though, was a tweet that Matt Gaetz posted. And if you've got kids in the room, you might want to push them out of the room, because I think this girl doesn't use the best language. But Matt Gaetz tweeted this out as an example, and his comment was, "This is the true pandemic of our era." And I think Matt Gaetz is right, but I'm not sure that he and I are looking at the same pandemic. So let me share this, and we'll bring it up, and we'll just listen to this woman here for a second. And stay with me. I may play this more than once or step through it. So here we go.
Quick question. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I am so sick and tired of just everything right now.
She's sick and tired of everything.
Everyone is so quick to say,
everyone,
stop doing this, stop thinking like this, stop doing, like,
stop
telling me I'm wrong. I have literally convinced myself at this point, based on everything that everyone's telling me, my therapist, my family, my friends, that I'm just doing everything wrong. I'm healing wrong. I'm thinking wrong. I'm training wrong. I'm
wrong. Wrong is a universal quantifier. Everything wrong. Okay, so I'm not counting, but I think that we're up to 10 or 12 at this point. I don't know how many seconds in we are. We're 40 seconds in.
I'm doing relationships wrong. Everything I do is fucking wrong.
Everything I do is wrong. Okay, universal quantifier.
And I'm so sick of it. Stop comparing. It's not even about comparison. Like, I genuinely just want love in my life. So
she says it's not about comparison. Okay, so you have to understand that the idea here is that we create our own boxes that we put ourselves in. And by defining the edge of the box as never or wrong or everyone or always, you don't leave yourself any room. You don't leave yourself any wiggle room mentally to be able to conceive of alternate ways of looking at things. If you've painted yourself into a corner using language, then there is no place to go. And the simplest thing to do in order to fix your worldview is to start by changing the words that you're using.
Oh, badly. It's literally not about anyone else. It's just about me and what I want. And being fucking over the fact that I don't have it. I feel
Okay, so I just had I had a long conversation with a friend yesterday, and he is suffering from the exact same mindset that this woman is. Okay, and that is that their perception of the world is framed by the language that they use for defining that world.
Like, I have done so much work on myself. I have built a beautiful life for myself. I'm happy with my life where I'm at, my job. I'm successful. I'm independent. I'm healthier than I've ever been. I take such good care of myself. Truly, the only thing I'm missing in my life is someone to enjoy it with. And I'm so sick of waiting. Like, when is it going to be my turn? What more do I have to do to fix myself before I'm just allowed to be happy, before I'm allowed to meet this universe soulmate person?
Okay, so this is so much victimology, okay, is going on here. It's the externalization of what's going on. She obviously she takes good care of herself. She's independent. She's got a good job. Well, maybe she's maybe that's not what the person who she's looking for is looking for. Maybe there's something else that needs to change. And I would suggest that the easiest thing to change in the world is your language and the way that you present yourself to other people by using language. No, it's not Laura Loomer.
And that God supposedly has for me. How much harder do I have to pray and manifest and wait? I feel like I'm being punished for something I didn't do.
Okay, a little sense of entitlement.
And I'm just so tired. I'm so tired. I don't expect a lot. I just want love in my life so bad. I want my life partner. Am I just supposed to be alone? Like, is that the message that this beautiful
Okay, alone is a universal quantifier. Alone is
life I've built for myself, like, it's just supposed to be me in it alone? Like, I know I have my dog and I love him so much, but like, I need love. All of my friends
love is a universal quantifier.
have their fiancés and their boyfriends and their husbands that they prioritize. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I've been left behind.
Yeah, this is what happens when you're single and your friends start getting married, is that your single friends get smaller. So I'm gonna lose this for now. I think that you get the idea that what we're dealing with right now is a language epidemic, and language is so much easier to fix than like a disease, but it requires looking at it. So I'm going to go from the alpha to the omega here, and we're going to go to Donald Trump because I watched the speech last night, which I was expecting him to say that we were about to bomb Venezuela, and my guess is that might have been what the speech was supposed to be about, and things didn't line up the way that they wanted it to, and so they just dropped the Venezuela part because it reminded me so much of January 6th, 2021, in that you had 250,000 people freezing to death, and Donald Trump was standing in front of everyone, not really saying anything, and that is I had the same feeling when I was watching him last night, like, oh, this was supposed to be about Venezuela and drug dealing, but the sentiment analysis came back. We took all the Twitter data and we put it through Palantir and Cambridge Analytica, and it came back and said that now's not a good time to announce the Venezuela attack, so maybe we're not going to do it. And so we got this big kind of like nothing burger speech, but I want to look at it with you because I thought that there was something valuable, and the thing that was valuable is Trump's use of universal quantifiers and modal operators, because it's epidemic, I would say, in this example. So let's bring this up. Here we go. I'm gonna start this. Here we go.
Good evening, America. 11 months ago, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and
the worst.
And some would say in the history of our country.
And then he's qualifying the qualifier, quantifier,
which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for
higher than ever before.
Millions and millions of Americans.
Before what?
This happened during a Democrat administration, and it's when we first began hearing the word affordability.
No, when we first started hearing the word affordability. Did we first start hearing it about affordability? I don't know. I've been dealing with affordability my entire adult life.
Our border was open, and because of this, our country was being invaded by an army of 25 million people, many who came from prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. They were drug dealers, gang members, and even 11,888 murderers, more than 50% of whom killed more than one person. This is what the Biden administration allowed to happen to our country, and it can never be allowed to happen again.
Never.
We had men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody.
Everybody.
Crime at record levels with law enforcement, and words such as that just absolutely forbidden.
Words such as that. I think he misread the teleprompter.
We had the worst trade deals ever made, and our country was laughed at from all over the world. But they're not laughing anymore. Over the past 11 months, we have brought more positive change to Washington than any administration in American history.
More than any in history.
There's never been anything.
Never been anything like it.
Like it, and I think most would agree.
Most. He qualified it. He used most.
I was elected in a landslide, winning the popular vote and all 7 swing states and everything else.
Everything else.
With a mandate to take on a sick and corrupt system that really just took the wealth from people and crushed the dreams of the American people. For the last 4 years, the United States was ruled by politicians who fought only for insiders, illegal aliens.
Only for insiders.
Career criminals, corporate lobbyists, prisoners, terrorists, and above all, foreign nations, which took advantage of us at levels never seen before.
Never.
They flooded your cities and towns with illegal aliens. They decimated your hard-earned savings. They indoctrinated your children with hate for America. They just released a level of violence.
And it's all they. He restates they. This is the Democrats, right? This is completely political speech.
Felons that we had never seen to prey on innocent.
Never.
They caused war. They caused mayhem. They caused a horrible situation all over the globe. But now you have a president who fights for the law-abiding, hardworking people of our country, the ones who make this nation run, who make this nation work. And after just 1 year, we have achieved more than anyone could have imagined. Starting on day one, I took immediate action to stop the invasion of our southern border. For the past 7 months, 0 illegal aliens have been allowed into our country, a feat which everyone said was absolutely impossible.
Everyone, absolutely impossible. Bing, bing, bing. Universal quantifier, universal quantifier, universal quantifier.
Do you remember when Joe Biden said that he needed Congress to pass legislation to help close the border? He was always blaming Congress and everyone else. As it turned
out, he was always blaming.
We didn't need legislation.
I'm not defending Joe Biden here. I'm simply pointing out the use of language here. That's so for people who think that I'm dunking on Trump right now, I'm just pointing out the words.
We just needed a new president. We inherited the worst border anywhere in the world, and we quickly turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country. In other words,
okay, this is the walloping window blind. We had the worst border, and now we have the best border.
In a few short months, we went from worst to best. We're deporting criminals, restoring.
Going from worst to best is kind of like, that's the cliche Donald Trump trademark.
Safety to our most dangerous cities. Just take a look at Washington, D.C. It's at levels of safety that we've never seen before.
Never seen before.
And they decimated the bloodthirsty foreign drug cartels. We did that all by ourselves with our people, and we're so proud of it because they were poisoning and destroying our population.
We did it all by ourselves. Now, I understand what he's saying. He's saying that it's a policy decision by the administration whether or not they want to enforce the law or not.
Drugs brought in by ocean and by sea are now
by ocean and by sea. I thought that was very. There's something telling there.
Down 94%. We have broken the grip of sinister woke radicals in our schools, and control over those schools is back now in the hands of our great and loving states where education belongs. After rebuilding the United
Okay, so the federal government isn't taking care of education anymore. They've kicked it down to the states, but the oligarchy still controls all of the states, so I'm not sure that's going to actually fix anything, but we continue.
States military in my first term, and with the addition we are adding right now, we have the most powerful military anywhere in the world, and it's not even close.
Most. Okay, so he's doubling down on his universal quantifier. We have the most powerful military, and it's not even close.
I've restored American strength, settled 8 wars in 10 months, destroyed.
He settled 8 wars in 10 months. I think people are still getting killed all over the world, aren't they? I don't know. I could be wrong.
The Iran nuclear threat and ended the war in Gaza, bringing for the first time in 3,000 years peace to the Middle East and secure.
That's it's not quite universal. It's 3,000 years. For the first time in 3,000 years, there's peace. Gaza has been leveled. It's like, oh, that's one way of bringing peace. You just completely annihilate the people that you're having problems with.
The release of the hostages, both living and dead. Here at home, we're bringing our economy back from the brink of ruin. The last administration and their allies in Congress looted our treasury for trillions of dollars, driving up prices and everything at levels never seen before.
Okay, so this is going to make a lot of the LaRouche people angry at me, but look, as long as we're still dealing with the Federal Reserve Bank, and as long as the United States Treasury continues to create dollars out of debt to the Federal Reserve Bank, there is no economic solution that isn't going to wind up turning into a reset. I don't actually know what he's talking about.
I am bringing those high prices down and bringing them down very fast. Let's look at the facts.
Gasoline's it's almost $5 a gallon. It's gone from $5.50 a gallon to like $4.75 a gallon in California. I know that California is like a communist country, but eggs are still. How much are eggs? Eggs are still really expensive here. I would say that my grocery, since COVID, the amount of money that I spend on food is at least 100% increase, if not 150 to 200% increase.
The Biden administration, car prices rose 22%, and in many states, 30% or more. Gasoline rose 30 to 50%. Hotel rates rose 37%, airfares rose 31%. Now, under our leadership, they're all coming down and coming down fast. Democrat politicians also sent the cost.
The reason that I said that this speech reminds me of January 6th is because we were all freezing to death, and he was spitting out statistics like any of us cared about statistics, like using a logical or using logic or reason in something that's ostensibly a political speech was like a good idea. And again, I find this dry and boring and not very engaging, which is why it makes me think that this was not the original speech that they had planned. My guess is, I'm just a finger in the air, what they needed to do is that they needed to build up all of the accomplishments in order to sell whatever it is that was going to happen at the end of the speech. And then the thing that they were going to sell, they never wound up wheeling out. And I've got a feeling that's exactly what happened on January 6th also. So I'll continue.
Of groceries soaring, but we're solving that too. The price of a Thanksgiving turkey was down 33% compared to the Biden last.
33%. That number just comes up all the time, doesn't it? You know, it's just amazing how much that number comes up.
Year. The price of eggs is down 82% since March, and everything else is falling rapidly.
The reason that eggs went up is because they killed all the chickens. They got a PCR test that said that the chickens had bird flu, and then they killed all the chickens in the United States. If you've got questions, put a Q in front of your comment and ask them, and Jessica will route them in here for you.
And it's not done yet, but boy, are we making progress. Nobody can believe what's going on.
Nobody, universal quantifier.
Here are just some of the efforts that we have underway. You will see in your wallets and bank accounts in the new year. After years of record-setting falling incomes, our policies are boosting take-home pay at a historic pace. Under Biden, real wages plummeted by $3,000. Under Trump, the typical factory worker has seen a wage increase of $1,300. For construction workers, it's $1,800. For miners, we're bringing back clean, beautiful.
Is that a year? $1,800 a year, a month, a week? How much is that? There's no qualification for that number.
Coal is $3,300. And for the first time in years, wages are rising much faster than inflation. Remember that. The wages, just look at it. Wages are going up much faster than inflation.
This is hilarious. I mean, to me, it's just hilarious that wages are going up. So the government is printing money. That's what the Bitcoin people have that meme that they put out there. They're printing money and they're saying wages have to go up because if you put more money into the system, then you create inflation. And if you create inflation, then people can't afford to buy things or pay their rent or eat. So you have to increase them. But the key to this whole thing is the money supply, and it's the Fed, and he doesn't seem to be talking about, he doesn't seem to be addressing that. So let's continue.
How big is that? Very importantly, there are more people working today than at any time in American history, and 100% of all jobs created since I took office have been in the private sector. Think of that. 100% of all jobs have been in the private sector.
Well, if you understand that what the technocrats want to do, if you understand Curtis Yarvin or Nick Land or Peter Thiel or any of those people, what they want to do is that they want to privatize as many things as possible, right? They want to get rid of government, replace as much government with AI as possible. That's the canard, right? That well, it may not be a canard. It probably might be something that I would do, but the idea is that they want to turn as much of the management of the things that the federal government is responsible for, whether or not we don't even have the conversation about whether or not the federal government should be responsible for any of this stuff, right? The federal government, as far as I'm concerned, is here to protect us, not to provide services from us, and it does a piss poor job of protecting us. So I digress.
Other than government, which is the only way to make a
only way to make a country
powerful and great.
Powerful and great. Well, I don't need my country to be powerful and great. what I really need is I need my country. The dogs. I don't know if you can hear the dogs or not. I don't need my country to be powerful and great. I need my country to provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and to provide justice. I was just looking at the preamble of the Constitution the other day, and that's what the country is supposed to do. That's what our country is supposed to do. That's really all it's supposed to do. Provide for the common defense, to promote the general welfare, and then provide a framework for justice. As far as I'm concerned, it kind of fails on all three of those at this point. But I'll let Trump continue.
Historic trend will continue. Already, I've secured a record-breaking $18 trillion of investment into the United States, which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security. Much of this success has been accomplished by tariffs.
Far greater national security. Again, we have 700 bases around the world. We are essentially the policemen for the empire. That's where most of that quote unquote defense money goes. I think it's hilarious that they renamed the Department of Defense to Department of War. Again, while they continue to be very warlike, and while he gets up there and he talks about defense, like, okay.
My favorite word, tariffs, which for many decades have been used successfully by other countries against us, but not anymore. Companies know that if they build in America, there are no tariffs, and that's why they're coming home to the USA in record numbers. They're building factories and plants at levels we haven't seen, AI, automobiles. We're doing what nobody thought was even possible, not even remotely possible. There has never, frankly, been anything like it.
Never anything like it.
1 year ago, our country was dead. We were absolutely
dead. That is about as universal quantifier as you're going to get.
Absolutely dead. Our country was ready to fail. Totally failed. Now,
fail, totally fail. Universal quantifier, universal quantifier, universal quantifier. I'm just getting beaten over the head with them.
We're the hottest country anywhere in the world, and that's
hottest anywhere in the world.
Said by every single leader that I've spoken to over the last 5 months. Next year, you will also see the results of the largest tax cuts in American history.
Largest.
That were really accomplished through our great, big, beautiful bill, perhaps the most sweeping legislation.
Big, beautiful bill, BBB 666. There's no Freemasonic symbolism in this speech at all.
Ever passed in Congress. We wrapped 12 different bills up into one beautiful bill.
Is that good? Is that good when you wrap 12 bills into one? You know, I like the whole line item veto idea.
Includes no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Under these cuts, many families will be saving between $11,000 and $20,000 a year, and next spring is projected to be the largest tax refund season of all time. Because of tariffs, along with the just passed One Big Beautiful Bill.
You know, it's funny. I was watching Tyler Zed last night, and it was great because there's some people who are starting to really understand this. He said, you know, if we're, I was watching Tyler Zed and I was reading Ellen Brown, and Ellen Brown said that we're at an inflection point because we're now borrowing money to pay the interest on the debt. So in the national debt is set to go, what do you call it? Not logarithmic, but exponential right now. It's the United States national debt is set to go exponential because we're now borrowing money to pay interest. We're now selling bonds to pay interest on bonds. That's not good. That's really, really not good. And so, you know, all this rhetoric is kind of hilarious to me because he's not actually talking about whatever the problems are that we need to solve. And neither was Biden, because nobody in Washington, D.C. is going to talk about this. But let's continue.
Tonight, I am.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Tyler Zed pointed out. I pointed this out to Mike Cernovich like 10 years ago in his backyard. I said, you know, if we can spend money, if the government can spend money that it doesn't actually have, then why do they actually need to? Why do we need to pay taxes? If they can just print money and go buy things without asking and make us responsible for paying it back, then why do we pay taxes? And the answer is that because it's a slave system, and because the Federal Reserve Bank was basically set up by the Bank of England, and the IRS was set up in order to make sure that the American public was there to service the interest on the debt that the Federal Reserve owes to the Bank of England. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it goes through a lot of different cutouts to get there, but there's no sound reason for the American economy the way that it's set up right now.
Also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call warrior dividend before Christmas, a warrior dividend.
Okay, so they have to, they're obviously having recruiting problems, right? They're obviously having problems. If the United States military is having problems retaining their forces. By the way, this is what happened in Rome. If the United States military is having problems maintaining its volunteer force because we're doing things like getting involved in probably because of all the negative fallout from what's going on in Gaza right now, and how that's impacting politics and loyalties in the United States of America. This seems like this is a desperate paying soldiers $1,776 as a bonus this Christmas is a very interesting conceit.
In honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than...
Okay, so this is the lie about tariffs. The lie about tariffs is that the foreign countries are paying the tariffs. And it's not true. I just bought my house burned down. I wanted this fan. I had this cool round Dyson fan. And the only place I could find them was on eBay in Japan, used. And I bought one from Japan, used on eBay. And I wound up paying $38 in tariffs on the fan. So the Japanese person who sold me the fan, they didn't pay the tariff. I paid the tariff. So when he says that, these foreign countries are running over here because they don't want to pay these tariffs, the people paying the tariffs are us. So they're just not selling the products because their products are getting too expensive. And the only way they can control the price of their products is by building them over here. That's a slightly different story.
In our military, and I say congratulations to everybody. And by the way, we now have record enlistment in our military. And last year we had among the worst recruitment numbers in our military's history. What a difference a year makes.
Yeah, I'd like to see those numbers.
In addition, I'm doing what no politician of either party has ever done.
No politician ever done.
Standing up to the special interests to dramatically reduce the price of prescription drugs. I negotiated directly with the drug companies and foreign nations, which were taking advantage of our country for many decades, to slash prices on drugs and pharmaceuticals by as much as 400, 500, and even 600%. In other words, your drug costs will be plummeting downward, and I used the threat of tariffs to get foreign countries who would never have done it to pay the cost of this giant dollar reduction. They stopped ripping us off, and it began as of 4 days ago. There has never been anything like this in the history of our country. Drugs have only gone up, but now they'll be going down by numbers never conceived possible. It's called Most Favored Nation, and no president has ever had the courage or ability to get this done until now. The first of these unprecedented price reductions will be available starting in January through a new website, trumprx.gov. And these big price cuts will greatly reduce the cost of health care. I'm also taking on the gigantic health insurance companies that have gotten rich on billions of dollars of money that should go directly to the people. The money should go to the people. That's you. So they can buy their own health insurance, which will give far better benefits at much lower cost. It will be far better health insurance. The current Unaffordable Care Act was created to make insurance companies rich. It was bad health care at much too high a cost. And you see that now in the steep increase in premiums being demanded by the Democrats, and they are demanding those increases, and it's their fault. It is not the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's the Unaffordable Care Act, and everybody knew it. Again, I want the money to go directly to the...
I just want to remind people that John Roberts, who was supposedly the conservative hero on the Supreme Court, was the guy who rewrote the Affordable Care Act in order to make it, to push it through. You know, this framing of reality is I don't know. I'll let him continue.
People, so you can buy your own health care. You get much better health care at a much lower price. The only losers will be insurance companies that have gotten rich, and the Democrat Party, which is totally controlled by those same insurance companies. They will not be happy, but that's okay with me, because you, the people, are finally going to be getting great health care at a lower cost. Another major focus is the cost of energy. For years, the radical left Democrats exploited the green energy scam as an excuse to funnel many billions of dollars into their own massive slush funds, as their energy restrictions drastically drove up prices, and they drove them up at record levels. Electricity costs surged 30 to 100% under Biden, and the typical family lost $5,000 to $10,000 in higher energy costs. Think of that, $5,000 to $10,000 you lost. On day one, I declared a national energy emergency. Gasoline is now under $2.50 a gallon in much of the country. In some states, it, by the way, just hit $1.99 a gallon. And within the next 12 months.
If you read the last couple of stories that I posted on the Duke Report about the price of oil, it's such a construct, the price of oil, and it's been used as such a weapon against us. I could talk for hours about that.
We will have opened 1,600 new electrical generating plants, a record, and it's a record that won't be beaten by practically, I would say, by anybody, or certainly not very soon. Prices on electricity and everything else will fall dramatically. The Democrat inflation disaster, again, the worst in the history of our country, also robbed millions of Americans of home ownership and indeed the American dream. The yearly cost of a typical new mortgage increased by $15,000 under Democrat rule. In 11 months, we've already gotten that annual cost down by $3,000. And
you're not going to pull the money out of the economy. Okay, the $20 trillion that they printed, or whatever it is that they dumped into the economy, that's not going to come back. So, you know, people think that inflation means that things get more expensive, and that's kind of disingenuous. The reality is that the money is worthless. Okay, it's not that the TV behind me costs more money. Okay, it's that the dollars that I use to buy it aren't worth as much. Okay, that's the perception issue. You know, I don't hear him talk about that.
It's coming down a lot lower. Wait till you see, the numbers are going to be shocking. And I'll soon announce our next chairman of the Federal Reserve, someone who believes in lower interest rates by a lot. And
Richard Werner, Ellen Brown, Mark Skidmore, Catherine Austin Fitz. You're gonna name them the the president of the Fed? I don't think so. Not without the 1st Marine Brigade escorting them across the lawn there.
Mortgage payments will be coming down even further early the new year, and you will see this in the new year. I will announce some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. A major factor in driving up housing costs was the colossal border invasion. We have never been invaded. This is the worst thing that, frankly, in my opinion, the worst thing that the Biden administration did to our country is the invasion at the border. The last administration and their allies in Congress broke.
I'm just going to talk for myself, but losing 3,000 residences in West Los Angeles was a big deal to me. I had to leave Los Angeles.
Put in millions and millions of migrants and gave them taxpayer-funded housing while your rent and housing costs skyrocketed. Over 60% of growth in the rental market came from foreign migrants. At the same time, illegal aliens stole American jobs and flooded emergency rooms, getting free health care and education paid for by you, the American taxpayer. They also increased the cost of law enforcement by numbers so high that they are not even to be mentioned. For the first time in 50 years,
it's a universal qualifier that's so universal that I can't even come up with a number.
We're now seeing reverse migration as migrants go back home, leaving more housing and more jobs for Americans. In the year before my election, all net creation of jobs was going to foreign migrants. Since I took office, 100% of all net job creation has gone to American-born citizens, 100%. In the end, government either serves the productive, patriotic, hardworking American citizen, or it serves those who break the laws, cheat.
Okay, so so now he's setting up a dichotomy. It's either or, so it's a modal operator.
The system and seek power and profit at the expense of our nation.
And that's the complex equivalence, at the expense of our nation.
Look at Minnesota, where Somalians have taken over the economics of the state and have stolen billions and billions of dollars from Minnesota and indeed from the United States of America. And we're going to put an end.
Right. Well, and this is a great example. Look, I have nothing against Somalians. Okay. But the idea is that they didn't, it's not an organic idea that a bunch of Somalians woke up one day in Somalia and said, hey, we need to move to Minnesota. A state, by the way, that whose weather is a little bit different than Somalia, right? But there needs to be an investigation of the super state, okay, that organized that, because in order to do that, you had to compromise the government of the United States of America. You had to compromise the government of the state of Minnesota, and then you also had to pay for it, right? You had to move all of those people over. So we know that it's non-NGOs and foundations, and that money is coming from someplace. It's probably coming from U.S. taxpayers, a lot of it, okay? And that's probably all illegal, by the way. And I haven't seen anybody stand up in Congress, or I haven't heard Trump say, hey, we need to do an investigation to shut this down. I mean, maybe this is the first time, okay? But there's a lot of people need to go to jail for this, or worse, and I don't think any of that's going to happen. So, waiting for the cows to leave the barn and then closing the door, okay, and saying, we're never going to open this barn door again. It's like, this is what Ronald Reagan did with immigration. He said, okay, I'll give you everything you want as long as they said, Tip O'Neill said, we'll give you everything you want as long as you give amnesty to the 6 million aliens that are already here. And Reagan said, okay. And the Republicans are going, Reagan is he's such a great president. He's so good at doing all this stuff. Reagan sold us down the river just the same way. So I'm not impressed. I'm sorry. And again, I'm not registered to vote. Okay. So I don't really have a dog in this fight.
Do it for so long as before my election, the vast majority of good and decent Americans were forced to watch as corrupt politicians plundered the halls of power, exploited our taxpayers, and pillaged every system that makes civilized society function. but not anymore. And you see that every day, not anymore.
Not anymore every day.
We're putting America first, and we are making America great again. Very simple. We are making America great again. Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure. Inflation is stopped. Wages are up. Prices are down. Our nation is strong. America is respected, and our country is back, stronger than ever before. We're poised for an economic boom, the likes of which the world has never seen. Soon we will host the World Cup and the Olympics, both of which I got. But most importantly, we will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. There could be no more fitting tribute to this epic milestone than to complete the comeback of America that began just 1 year ago. When the world looks at us next year, let them see a nation that is loyal to its citizens, faithful to its workers, confident to its identity, certain to its destiny, and the envy of the entire globe. We are respected again like we have never been respected before. To each and every one of you, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless you all.
All right, I'm going to take this out, look for some questions. And I'll just say this, that, somebody on Twitter today was talking about how they thought Donald Trump is an egomaniac and that he's self-referential. And I think that, and I've written about this, I've written many articles about this. I think people who watch me understand that this is what I think, is that I think he's playing a character. I think Donald Trump is a cartoon character. I mean, quite literally. And that when he did the, are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein thing in the cabinet room? And people are going, how is it that he's able to do this? Just think of wrestling, right? Just think of Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant or The Undertaker, Roddy Piper, Rowdy Roddy Piper, kayfabe is the mindset of never breaking character. And so I think that the Trump character is an egomaniac. I don't know if Trump is a real egomaniac in person, but he plays one on television, and that's who his character is. And so with that, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go and look at some questions here. Somebody said, which Duke Report videos can help me understand Logos better? I probably haven't done a video on Logos. I think that where I started to get my understanding from Logos, and there probably is a Logos. Let me go see if there's a what was the name of Mike Hoffman's book. I'll pull this up. Logos Rising is his book. Oh, that's very interesting. I have not. Okay, this is a good question, Eric. So, my entree into understanding linguistics was the single word logos, and there's a book that I had. I lost it in the fire, called Logos Rising, by E. Michael Jones, and it is in that book that I discovered that the word logos not only does not mean word, but it's got 5 pages of definitions on what's called the Little Scott Lexicon. So logos is a word that you can think of more like that which can be, the word, it doesn't mean word, it means that which can be done with words. So right now I am using logos in order to form ideas, make those words come out of my mouth, and they're going into your ears right now. So that which can be done with words is logos. So you can use logos in order to argue, to measure, to convince, to cheat. It's basically the application of language. And I started my journey with E. Michael Jones' book, Logos Rising. And I thought that I had an explainer for Logos Rising, and I don't. So look for that in the next couple of days. I'll put it up on the Duke Report. Thank you for asking that question.
Arthur Stone kind of answered it.
and Arthur, Jessica tells me that Arthur answered it in the chat, but I think that it's good that I just noticed that that doesn't. Eric Groomer. Yeah, Arthur said that Eric in the beginning was the operating system. Yeah, I guess I did explain it then. But I should probably just do an article straight up just on logos. I should do one on logos. I should do one on crisis, which is hermeneutically. Hermeneutics is the politics of translating something from one language to another. And so you get a word like logos and it gets translated into English as word. Well, it doesn't mean word. Okay. You get a word like crisis, and in crisis means in English, it means something that is at a peak of decision making, right? And crisis in Greek, which is the original word, it means discernment. So logos, discernment, praus or price. I'm still trying to figure out the Greek pronunciation of it. Gets translated into English as meek, and in meek we kind of think of somebody who's cowering or weak, and meek means quiet strength, reserved strength. It means keeping your mouth shut until you have something to say. It means thinking about what you're going to say before you say it. And the connotation of the word meek in English is completely screwed up. And then love, agape. So these are kind of like the four rules of engagement, Christian rules of engagement. And I should probably just do an article on the 4 Christian rules of engagement. But thank you, Arthur, for answering that question. All right, let me see. Xanadu Zimba says, Oren E. Cap's book, Heroes, Villain, and Fools, is a good frame to take in the news and a good auxiliary to NLP. Okay, well, I'll go look. I'll do a little screenshot here, and that way I have it later. Okay, thanks for that. Kate Gowan says, what do the Dukes think about the theory the big, beautiful ballroom is a cover for a deep, secured federal data center like the one Israel built in Jerusalem? Well, I was reading an article yesterday, or it might have been a Twitter thread, and I think that there's good argument for that. It's got they're increasing the power requirements by 500%. And the square footage does seem like they're putting something under it. I don't know if it makes sense to put a data center under there. It makes more sense that you put a bunker under there than a data center. But who knows? I don't know. Data centers require a lot of electricity, a lot of air conditioning, and the White House is kind of an administrative area. I mean, I think that they're doing something besides a ballroom, but I'm not sure it's a data center, and I'm not sure that it makes sense to put a data center under there. But I could be wrong. Let's see. Sue watched. I watched the Wall Street and the FDR explainer. The primary reason I got sucked into believing FDR was on the side of the people was that he created the Glass-Steagall. Can you comment? Look. The problem that we all have to struggle through is the what's his name at University of Chicago, Leo Strauss. Leo Strauss said Americans love good guys and bad guys, and if you understand my framework of looking at things with assets and handlers, I think that there were good things that FDR did within the context of what he was dealing with, right? But the fact is, I mean, I heard somebody argue once that John Maynard Keynes was completely correct, and if FDR had simply done everything that he did and not borrowed the money from the Federal Reserve and just used the Treasury in order to create Treasury notes in order to make the New Deal happen, that he could have achieved the same thing. But then the bankers in England wouldn't have gotten their interest on all the money that the United States borrowed, and so that wouldn't have worked out. it's an interesting argument. I don't know if it's true. And by the way, it never happened. So it's kind of like arguing about how many angels dance on the head of a pin. But yeah, Glass-Steagall was a good way of fixing a bad system. Okay, but if you understand, it's kind of like, I don't know. Glass-Steagall seems to me it's kind of like it's like chemotherapy with cancer. But if you just prevented the cancer from happening in the first place, you wouldn't need it. You know what I'm saying? But Glass-Steagall was a good thing. But wasn't that passed by Glass and Steagall? Weren't they the guys who came up with it? Isn't that why their name is on it? I could be wrong. And again, I don't pretend to be an expert on any of this stuff, but I do know that Anthony Sutton pointed out a bunch of things that were wrong with what FDR was doing. And the book Two World Wars and Hitler doesn't do FDR any favors either. And so, again, I'll just leave it there. I'm not sure I answered your question or not. Eric Gromer says, also try Google search for the Duke Report Logos and Sermon on the Mount. Yeah, I've written about the Sermon on the Mount, and I need to go back and revisit that. My wife and I read the Bible every day, and we did just get through the Sermon on the Mount, and I have new thoughts about it. It's great reading it every once in a while, because it does force you to kind of think about things in a certain different way. And I do think that the Sermon on the Mount is a great rubric. I do think that there's a lot of real core understandings of human nature and the way that we process things that are in the Sermon on the Mount. And I was thinking about that really just this morning and yesterday morning. Let's go back to Xanadu. How do you view mythos versus logos? Well, Carl Jung said all religions have a mythos and a logos. They have a logic system, and then they have a story structure that supports the logic system. And mythos is a great way, especially if you start to think of pre-literate man. Okay, so we take things for granted like writing, which we've been doing more or less for a couple thousand years. And our history is much older than that. And so if you understand that things had oral traditions, and things like epic poetry required meter and rhythm and rhyme and things like that in order to facilitate memory, then mythos winds up becoming a really important component of it. And the problem becomes is that if you use myths as metaphors and then people start taking the metaphors literally, then you have a kind of a reality disconnect. And so there's always a balancing act between those things. I don't know if that answered your question. But I was just working on something before the show started today, which is that there was a I don't know how I discover these things, but let me see if I can. There's this guy. I put it up on SoundCloud. I'll just go look at SoundCloud, and that way I'll be able to remember. There's a guy named why isn't it here? William Mills Tompkins. And William Mills Tompkins wrote a couple of books about how he worked at Rand and worked at Douglas Aircraft and was in touch with extraterrestrials. And a lot of the stuff that he talks about maps directly to things that Kathy O'Brien was talking about. And so when I was reading about him today, I was thinking about the idea that if you've been part of an MK Ultra mind control program and you've been gone through trauma-based mind control in order to be programmed, you may believe that you've seen aliens and that you've talked to aliens because you've been high on LSD and people have been putting you through trauma-based mind control. And so I did an experiment where I took Notebook LM and I put Kathy O'Brien and this guy's book in, and then I gave it a rubric to work with, and it turned out way better than I could have ever even imagined. But if you have to understand that myths are a method of inculcating a story world that may also have incumbent in it a value system, then you need to. I'm sorry, my dog is going out of his mind behind me. You have to keep in mind that the value system may be getting slipped in while you're eating your popcorn and enjoying the mythology. So logos is a way for you to kind of take that stuff apart. And so the exercise that I just did in looking at the Donald Trump speech and showing you where I'm just highlighting universal quantifiers as I'm listening to him, right? It's a way of me taking me out of the mythos and putting me into the logos. Okay, it's just by analyzing the words. I don't get lost in the storytelling, right? Because there's a lot of storytelling going on there. And gee whiz, if you're so full of hopium, if you're watching Promethean Pack and then you're switching the channel and watching Trump's speech, you might get this warm and fuzzy feeling and, start singing, well, happy days are here again. And I don't, I think it was Debbie who said, Debbie who says right now, big, beautiful bunker. that might be, that might be a big, beautiful bunker. I just don't believe stories anymore. Okay. I believe if again, the day that Donald Trump says, I've decided that I'm going to name the banks enemy combatants and that U.S. Treasury is taking over the economy and relieving the Federal Reserve of its duties, that would be a day that I would think things were actually going to change. But until that happens, I don't. I don't think things are going to change. Here we go. From Substacks, Art says, is there an easy, non-offensive way to tell someone that the ruling class has selected and promoted their heroes and enemies in order to always win the game? The key word, Art, in this question is the word tell. And the answer is no, you can't tell them. Because there's something about human nature that if you try to tell somebody something, their natural response is to compare it to what their reality frame is, and then rebut it. It's called cognitive dissonance. So basically, you'll explain to them how the ruling class has selected or promoted their hero, and then they'll compare that to what they believe, and then they'll come up with reasons for why whatever it is that you're saying is incorrect. And that will be driven by something called cognitive dissonance, which is why the appropriate and proper way to approach the same problem, I'm sorry, I think I accidentally took this off, is to ask them questions. Okay, you can ask them, the most simple question is, why do you believe that's true? Or what makes you believe that that person, again, I probably should come up with a specific example, and I'm trying to riff here, and I don't do a good job of going into a hypnotic trance, which is what you need to do in order to be able to answer a question like this on the fly. You have to ask people questions. So if you understand that people, when they're talking, when I'm talking right now, that I'm taking everything that I know in the world and I'm deleting, distorting, and generalizing it in order to fit into the language that's coming out of my mouth right now and then going into your ears, then you can think of things that you could ask Peter about what he's deleting. You could say, well, what are you deleting, Peter? But you could make it a more open-ended question, like, do you think that there's something that's been left out? That will lead you to a deletion. Do you think that that's completely true? Will lead you to something that's closer to the truth in a distortion. Can you be specific when somebody is using a general when somebody, Trump just used a bunch of universal quantifiers. How do you steer somebody towards the truth who's using a universal quantifier? You drop it down into a skill, you drop it down to an example of one. Okay. Can you give me one example of that? Okay. The short answer to the question, Art, is that we need to learn how to ask questions, because telling people doesn't work. Okay. So it's why Sean Hannity will never convince anybody on the left of anything, because Sean Hannity doesn't ask, he tells. Okay. If you look, and Rachel Maddow does the same thing on the other side. She doesn't ask, she tells. Bill Maher doesn't ask, he tells. Okay. Jon Stewart doesn't ask, he tells. All right. These people are all telling people what to think. The way that you change people's frames is by asking them questions. And by the way, in the Red Letter Bible, in the New Testament, that's what Jesus does. That's a universal quantifier. In every interaction that Jesus has in the New Testament, he is asking people questions, right? And that's how you get to the truth, is by asking people questions. If you understand that Jesus is Logos incarnate, so substitute Jesus for Logos, okay? Only through me do you get to the Father. Only through me do you get to the truth. Only through Logos do you get to the truth. Only through using language with discernment and meekness in love do you get to the truth. Okay? It's a rubric. It's a framework. Ask questions, Art. And you can do that by listening for deletions, listening for distortions, and listening for generalizations. They're always there. That's the universal quantifier. You don't need to know all of them. You only have to figure out one. That's why I tell people to start with universal quantifiers, because they're the easiest ones to listen for. All right, here we go. Sanity Zimba says, Rene Guénon is prolix and would love to see an explainer on some of his books. Didn't I do a Rene Guénon? I thought I did one. I will go look. I know that I have a couple of his books on the book section of the Duke Report, but let me do a screenshot and then I'll remember to do this. All right, I did a screenshot. Let's see. And Sue says, does Jesus ask questions in a different way from Plato? Socrates, you mean? Plato wrote about Socrates. Hang on. It's a good question. They have very similar techniques. I think that the difference is intent. I think that Plato operates in a Plato's ontology is looser. I could just put it that way. His moral framework, I would say, is much wider than Jesus. Jesus is operating from a Ten Commandments, Abrahamic framework of right and wrong, and I think that Plato is trying to describe in a kind of a blank slate kind of way what morality should be, and that winds up becoming difficult. I mean, Courtney Turner has been publishing stuff about liberty lately, and my question about liberty is always, liberty is freedom that's bestowed on you by someone or by something, and in the Declaration of Independence in the United States of America, that liberty is bestowed on you by the Creator in one document, and in the other document by the laws of nature and nature's God. So then the question becomes, who's the Creator, and what are the laws of nature and nature's God? Because those are the entity, let's just say, by which your liberty is granted to you. So we're still in this kind of Abrahamic versus Platonic versus Aristotelian kind of and there's a dozen other ones too, frameworks where we're trying to determine where our liberty comes from. And the reason that I think the word liberty is fraught with peril is because if you don't define who the liberty is bestowed to you from, then it winds up becoming a slippery slope. And you wind up not being able to determine what right and wrong is, because right and wrong becomes relative. And isn't that the world that we're in right now, where we've got woke and my truth is this? That all comes from that slippery slope. And again, you don't need to be a Christian or a Jew to look at the Ten Commandments or any set of rules like that and say, "Oh, that's a pretty good way of running a society. Maybe we should do that." But what we've been subjected to for at least 70 or 80 years, at least since the Frankfurt School, is a questioning process. Interestingly, right, where the Frankfurt School guys, Horkheimer and Adorno and Marcuse and company, taught people to start asking questions in order to destroy what their semblance of truth is. And, again, that all kind of started when separation of church and state. John Adams said that the Constitution was only going to be effective with a moral and religious people. And that's because the government can't be responsible for the morality of its citizens. Because morality is something that's internally driven. It's like people don't murder people because it's illegal. People don't murder people. Most people don't commit murder. Let's just put it this way. Most people don't commit murder because they're afraid of getting caught. Okay. Most people don't commit murder because they think it's wrong. And if you think it's wrong, you don't do it. And by the way, a society where a bunch of people think that it's wrong to murder and it's wrong to steal is a good society, right? It's safe to walk outside at night, right? You can have neighbors and friends. In a society where people only don't murder people because they're afraid of getting caught, that's not a good. That's a very expensive society that has a lot of police and legal systems and jails and stuff, and that's not good, So to answer your question, I think that the Greek philosophers were looking for a way of defining morality without the dogma, okay, of a religion, and it becomes difficult. It's a difficult thing to do. I don't know that anybody's come up with the answer. Art said, nice answer. So ask them, if you were in the ruling class and had the power and the money to rig the political system such that you could always benefit, how would you set that? How would you set? Well, I'm not sure if that's exactly it, but you're definitely going in the right direction. Yeah, I think simpler questions are easier. It's easier to pick one thing out that somebody is talking about. And this is why it's hard for me to give examples off the top of my head, because so much of effective neurolinguistic reframing is specific to the person that you're having the conversation with. So you have to listen for the deletion, the distortion, or the generalization that they're using. Okay. Because obviously it's important to them, or they wouldn't be using it. And that's where the meekness comes in, because what you're doing is that you're using that instead of jumping to want to give them an answer, you're letting whatever it is they're saying just kind of roll over you without emotion, in order to be able to pick out the deletion, to pick out the distortion, to pick out the generalization. And then it will help you form the question. And I would say the more granular that you get, the more specific that you can be about the question, the more likely that you're going to be to put the person into cognitive dissonance. Now, why is that important? And you'll know when they go into cognitive dissonance because their eyes will flutter or their breath will stop. Okay. You'll know that somebody is going, and that's a momentary trance, by the way, when that happens. When you put somebody into cognitive dissonance, they're in an alpha state for a second, right? And if you're ready, and this is why this is the difference between a hypnotist and somebody who just understands NLP like me, is that a hypnotist practices all the time, which means that when they ask that question, they see the person goes into cognitive dissonance, then they can make a suggestion. And the suggestion is usually also a question, but it's a leading question. It's a question that leads them in the direction that you want them to go in, such as, let me see if I can tease one out of what your example is here. So if you ask them if they were in the ruling class and had the power and money to rig the political system such that you could always benefit, how would you set that political system up? Oh, I see, system up. You could ask them that question, but I think it might be more useful to say, assuming that you had the power to, set up the political system and you could rig it and you could make things happen, what would you make happen? Okay. What are the things that you would fix right now? What are the things that you would do right now? Okay. And for me, ultimately, those questions always lead to a question of, is that something that you want to give people more freedom to be able to do? Okay. Or is that something that you want the government to do for other people? And because that's really like the poles of the tugging going back and forth for power right now, is that you have the humanists on one side, who I would say are Christian. Okay. Jesus is he's the advocate of free will. Okay. We're all put into this world. We're all fallen people and we have choices. We can choose a righteous path, or we can go in the direction of Satan, which means the opposite, which means going not in the righteous path. You've got those people on one side, and they advocate for freedom because it gives the human spirit the maximum amount of options in life, right? And then on the other side, you have the big government totalitarians who want the government to control everyone so that bad people won't do bad things. And that requires a fear-based a government, where people don't do things. I want people to not do things because they're afraid that their immortal soul is going to go to hell, not people that don't do things because they're afraid if they get caught, they'll go to jail. It's one is a lot more cost effective than the other. And by the way, one is a much nicer society to live in. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but I hope it did. Arthur said, classical modes of persuasion, logos, ethos. Yeah, this is Aristotle, I think, right? Logos, ethos, and appeal to authority, and pathos, appeal to emotion. Most political and media use pathos, yeah. And the linguistic frame that they use is a cause-effect complex equivalency. Donald Trump's entire speech was framed as these bad things happen because Democrats, okay? And I would argue that these bad things happen because superstate, which controls Democrats and Republicans, and the Democrats and the Republicans are television characters that are there to make us believe that one side or the other did it when it was actually the superstate that did it. And by the way, they put that picture on the back of the dollar bill just so that with an eye winking at you, just to let you know. And Jason Goodman's going to screenshot that so that he can tell everybody I'm Illuminati. The eye is winking at you because the people that you're watching on television aren't actually in control of what's going on. They're there to take the responsibility for what's going on, but they're not actually in control. Let's see. Get rid of this one. Got one more question. I like this having questions. Santa Zimba, any comments on Pope Leo? I've stopped listening to EMJ live on Friday, so I've lost contact with what's going on in that world. No, Leo is like the American Francis, I think, as far as I could tell. My wife is Catholic and used to pay much more attention to that stuff than she does now. So I don't know. She's reading the Occult Renaissance Church of Rome by Michael Hoffman right now. And I think Hoffman's argument is that the Vatican has been compromised for 700 years. Yeah, 700 years, something like that. So, yeah. And it was funny because somebody asked me the other day, if I thought, oh, it was the Vatican is really in charge, or the city of London, or Washington, D.C., and it's like the Jesuits, or the Jews, or the Freemasons. And the answer is all of the above. They're all different hands of the same octopus, I think, at this point. But again, the rubric is, are these people trying to facilitate policies that encourage human free will, or are they trying to clamp down on the control of humanity? Because those are the two poles. I'm not trying to. It's a spectrum. Mark McGrath says UDA, yes, UDA strategist. That's observe, UDA, diagnose. I can't remember. It's a OODA loop, right? It's Boyd, John Boyd. So basically a voluntary confederation based on the golden rule. That would be great. I think that's called volunteerism. I think James Corbett talks about that all the time. Yes, volunteerism would be great. It would be great. It requires a major mindset change in most people, though. So I think we need to do baby steps. And the way that we do baby steps is by simply, I think that the first baby step is we need to be specific in language. So the reason I did this show today is just because I wanted everybody to become aware of things called the universal quantifiers, because they're ubiquitous. That's a universal quantifier. They're everywhere, and people are using them all the time, and you don't need to use them. You can use many. You can use may instead of should. Should is another one of those words where it implies judgment. There's always an option to using a different term when you're using language and using universal quantifiers in your language. And I still use them, but I catch myself, and you hear me catching myself when I do it. And eventually I'll get to a point where I'll have other words that I could substitute and I won't need to use them. So usually the way that this happens is that first you have to recognize the problem. Then you have to be honest about catching yourself in real time and saying, excuse me, I didn't mean to say that this way. I'll say it this way. And then eventually you just won't use the incorrect forms anymore. And that goes for deletions and distortions and generalizations and all of them. And eventually you'll get better at communicating with people. And I think that will become infectious, because I think that people model one another. So if we can learn how to recognize these meta model patterns, recognize them in ourselves first, and then recognize them in other people. Here we go. UDA. Observe, orient, decide, act. Yes, this is how fighter pilots think. And maybe we should redefine the word. Maybe we should just let's rewrite the Sermon on the Mount here. Okay, the UDA shall inherit the earth. Okay, the people who observe, orient, decide, and act. Because UDA is probably Mark. Thank you. This is really good. Yeah. John Boyd is a fighter pilot, and he came up with this thing called the OODA loop, which is that you need to observe, orient, decide, and act. Observe, orient, decide, and act. And that's why it's a loop. when you're dogfighting as a fighter pilot, but it's something that you can carry through the rest of your life. And if we understood the word meek in English, which is not meek in Greek, it's prus, I think. But what it means is this, okay? That those who observe, orient, decide, and act shall inherit the earth. That's a pretty good frame. It's a pretty good translation, I think. And so I'll have to think about that. But off the top of my head, I think that you're onto something here, Mark. Because again, the way that you change your reality is simply by changing your frame, and the way that you reorient your frame is by changing the definitions of the words that you're using. And all of a sudden things look completely different, and what you see and hear are completely different. And I know that sounds kind of obtuse and abstract, but it works for me. And let's see, one more. So basically, oh yeah, we already read this. A voluntary confederation based on the Golden Rule. Yeah, it works. It works. I think that there's a few more rules besides the Golden Rule, but yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I wrote something about a year ago or so about natural law, and this guy who has an account, Winter Christian, criticized me, and he wants to do a podcast, and I might talk to him about it. But the idea is that natural law is something that is universal, that we can all agree on. Okay, like if you jump off a 10-story building, there's a good chance you're going to die. Okay, that's natural law. Okay, and so you can form a society based on certain rules on natural law, but natural law doesn't really have much to do with morality, like whether you should or shouldn't do things. Whether or not you should or shouldn't cheat on your wife or steal from your neighbor or do something like that. And that's where you start to get into, okay, well, what's moral? And when you attach a Christian morality to a country like the United States, and then shortly after you establish that country, you say, oh, well, we're going to separate, church and state. Okay, great. But we're just going to keep the moral parts. Well, you can't do that. Well, why not? Well, that's then because what happens is that you get the United States that you have now. And so there needs to be some morality. Okay. And then the question becomes, whose morality? And my guess is that isn't that what the 50 states were supposed to be? Isn't that the whole reason that there were supposed to be 50 different states, is because the Pennsylvania was started by Quakers, right? And the Quakers didn't believe the same thing as the Episcopalians, okay? And so they set up a whole state, and it was in fact, it was called Quaker State. Isn't there an oil company called Quaker State Oil Company? And that was the whole idea, I think, of the 50 state experiments, is that you could have 50 different kind of like moral experiments going. And those would be the way that those states differentiated themselves. And somehow we lost that. And again, I think that it all started when you created the separation of church and state. And getting back to the mythos and logos thing, when you throw the baby Jesus out with the bathwater, then you wind up having people who don't know what a difference between a man and a woman is, because they think that gender is a construct. In any case, I digress. I could talk about that for a long time. But do we have any other questions? If not, I will tell you that I enjoyed doing this again. I can't believe I went for an hour and 40 minutes. There's only 100 people watching, but I'm going to try to do this twice a week, and which means that I probably should be a little bit more organized. And I know it was kind of rough struggling through Donald Trump again. Somebody said, have you heard of the silver rule? Don't do to others what you wouldn't want done to you. Yeah, I mean, I love your screen name. uh, yeah, I mean, look, all of these things work. But the reality is that we need to, uh, they need to be put into law. Okay. And then the law needs to be hinging on that instead of this kind of airy fairy walloping window blind British admiralty law blacks framework that we've got right now, which I don't know about you, but it's not really working for me. I don't think that we live in the Constitution is supposed to guarantee three things: provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and provide a justice system. I don't think we have a justice system. I think we have a just us system. And I think Quigley is bored, and he's telling me that he wants to go outside and play. So I'm going to go play with my dog. And I'm glad that all of you guys stuck with me. If you want to learn more about this stuff, if you go onto the DukeReport.com, if you go onto the Substack, and you look for neurolinguistics or NLP or any of those keywords, you'll find a lot of these things on there. And these are the tools that I want to give you because I don't want to be the only one who knows this stuff. I want everybody who's watching right now to know this stuff. And so if you can help me and Jessica and Quigley out by becoming paid subscribers, that would be great. We really need your support. Our insurance company has let us down. And I don't want to give you a sob story, but getting our house burned down in the Pacific Palisades has increased our rent $700 a month. And we need to figure out a way to make that shortfall. This is all I do is try to provide content for you and the people who are supporting this show. I think that a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is going to be very valuable to people who are doing homeschooling in order to be able to kind of point their kids in the right direction. And so if anybody's out there is doing homeschooling, I know that there's a history teacher that watches the channel who's very supportive. I want to get her on. She knows a lot more about the Phoenicians than I do. And I'm just trying to provide a scaffolding for people who are trying to figure this world out and come up with good, positive solutions. And with that, I'll say hasta la vista, and I'll see you again next Tuesday. Bye-bye.